In Excel, there are a bunch of database functions that allow us to extract data from a table. This includes VLOOKUP, COUNTIFS, and SUMIFS, among many others, but we'll review these three core database functions. So let's discuss what we could do with these functions, and then we'll actually do them. First, we could find the associated product with an order ID. We could also count the number of Boston crab meat orders. And finally, we can sum up the total number of Boston crab meat quantity that's associated with the Boston crab meat orders. So the first function will be a VLOOKUP. Next, we'll use a COUNTIFS function, which basically counts if a certain condition is met. And then we'll use a SUMIFS function, which sums if a certain condition is met. Let's start with the VLOOKUP here. We're going to start with equals VLOOKUP. And we have four inputs for this function here. The first input is the lookup value. We want to look up this order ID here, 13601. That's the first input. The table is right here. It's the entire table, the table array. Next, what's the column index number? Well, we're looking for the product that's associated with that order ID. Well, the product is the second column, so that we're just going to put a 2 there. And finally, range lookup, we're going to do an exact match, which is false, so just hit tab there. You could also put a 0 instead of the false. Hit enter, and the product is Boston crab meat. Let's see if that's correct. Order 13601, so we could do a find here, Control F, 13601, and it is Boston crab meat. So we did that correctly. Let's try it again. This time, an order ID of 13580, we want to find the unit price. The unit price is the fourth column here, so just keep that in mind. So we're going to do equals VLOOKUP, and then hit tab. The lookup value is 13580. We want to look that up in this table here. The column index is 4. And we could put in 0 for the exact match. Let's see if we did that correctly. 580. And the price, the unit price is $7.45, so we did that correctly. It's worthwhile to know that the VLOOKUP function only works when the lookup value is in the first column of the table array. But there are some tweaks to the function and other functions like index match that will allow you to do much more and are much more flexible. Now let's look at SUMIFS, COUNTIFS. How many orders were there for Boston crab meat? So what we want to basically do is count up the number of times we see Boston crab meat in this product column here. So we could do equals COUNTIFS, and I like COUNTIFS and SUMIFS because it allows you to continue adding multiple criteria. So the criteria range is the first input. That's this here. It's a range. It's an array. And what is the criteria? We want to look up Boston crab meat. And we're going to put that in quotes since we're typing in the text here. This says that 15 times Boston crab meat showed up. And if you count them up here, you'll see that Boston crab meat shows up 15 times. Let's do the same thing but for potato pancakes. Equals COUNTIFS. The criteria range is right here. And the criteria, now instead of typing it in, we could just scroll over and reference this cell. And we don't need to put it in quotes because we're referencing a cell. And potato pancake shows up 4 times. 1, 2. Let's see, where are we? 3, 4. So we didn't need to put it in quotes here because we were referencing the cell, but here we did because we typed it in. Now let's look at the SUMIFS function. It'll answer the question, how many units of Boston crab meat were sold? So we basically have to sum up the quantity on the condition that this column here, the product column, is equal to Boston crab meat. So we're going to use the SUMIFS function. Now the sum range is the first input. This is what we want to sum up. Criteria range What's the criteria range? That's the product column. And what's the actual criteria? It has to be Boston crab meat. That sums up the quantity where Boston crab meat is the product. And I could show you quickly that we did it correctly. That's basically saying just show me the Boston crab meat and sum this up here, and you'll see that we get 71. Clearing the filter. Let's do the same thing for potato pancakes. Equals SUMIFS. The sum range, we want to sum up the quantity. The criteria range is this product range here, and the criteria is potato pancakes. And now I'm cell referencing, I'm moving over to this cell E11 where it says potato pancakes, and now we get 20. And again, I can show you that that's correct by filtering for potato pancakes, and then summing this up here gets us 20. And those are 3 essential database functions. There are multiple exercises you could do with these, multiple variations and other functions, but these are really the core 3 that you need to know.